The best VTuber album is LAUNCHVOX by YUKA Nagase. It's kinda crazy. When you think of VTuber music, you probably think of something like the music from Suisei Hoshimachi, where she's working with J-pop industry veterans to make something that is competent, but kinda boring. And I feel like a lot of VTuber music tends to be like that. It's kind of like idol music. It's listenable, but it's just generally pretty bland. But LAUNCHVOX is not like a lot of VTuber music. You're not getting J-pop ballads here. You're also not getting established industry veterans here. You're listening to an artist fully come into her own, evolving her whole persona while still exploring this constantly shifting electronic internet sound that's part of what makes the Japanese music scene so unique. And it's a really cool record. Yuka Nagase isn't like a typical VTuber. She doesn't do live streams or anything, but I'm comfortable calling her one because she uses a fake name, anime avatar, and all of her most popular videos are just VTuber J-pop covers. This version of Odd Loop is her most popular, which is baffling because the instrumental is kind of terrible. There's also a Shin Takarajima one here, but I think if you listen to those, you'll end up agreeing with me that Yuka Nagase's strength is not on uninspired J-pop covers. It's on her own original music, and on LAUNCHVOX, the weirder that music is, the better. Just a quick look down the producer list immediately tells you what the vibe is. It starts with Pasocom Music Club, a pretty popular indie act that's known for their fast-paced synth pop and club-focused house music. There's Amane Uyama, a hyperpop producer and one of the members of Paz Tosta, who are awesome and great and one of the coolest things happening in Japan right now. Vocaloid producer Iyowa is here. They're a pretty popular artist that's known for their energetic glitch pop. And the last song has the 1-2 punch of Mao Sasagawa and Mekakushe on production, both of whom tend towards an artsy kind of pop music. It's this collage of all these indie voices that goes a long way towards making LAUNCHVOX as special as it is. While no two songs on this thing are alike, they're all tied together by this unifying spirit of being energetic and fun and weird as hell. Like the Amane Uyama produced track After You, which throws Yuka Nagase around an instrumental that's memorable mostly for its weird drops and robotic rhythm. No other VTuber is throwing this kind of glitchy and loud pop track on their album. This is off the wall, and it's the kind of internet experimentalism that feels like it lives in a separate universe from the pop industry that so many VTubers are a part of. But Yuka Nagase on LAUNCHVOX is being given the creative freedom to do weird shit, to do songs with Amane Uyama, and the record is better off for it. Speaking of things that would never get put on another VTuber album, there's the opening track Close Yet Far, produced by Pasocom Music Club. Their album Sea Voice from a couple years back saw them hone their drum and bass skills, and they're putting that to use here on an atmospheric track that has Yuka Nagase glide over some breakbeats. No other VTuber album is opening up with a track that centers around a 40-second instrumental drum and bass breakdown. And even if they do, I promise you they're not pulling it off as convincingly as Yuka Nagase does to start off LAUNCHVOX. I'm not gonna pretend that I'm like an expert in VTuber music because I don't really watch VTubers at all, but the only album I can remember having the balls to try something like this is Tsukino Mito's Moon Rabbit's Dream of Virtual album from a couple years ago, which kinda had a similar spirit to this record, and also had a fucking Hakushi Hasegawa song on it. There's a whole separate video to be made about how Hakushi Hasegawa is slowly breaching the J-pop mainstream, but I'll spare you of that rant for now. Anyways, even that album, as weird as it was still for the most part just like vanilla Coke. There's a cool flavor there that really mixes it up, but like, it's still just Coke. And Coke is good, but it's not anything revolutionary. It's got a loud, Akibahara, glitchy flair, but it's still primarily just J-pop. LAUNCHVOX, though, revels in not being J-pop. The best song on it is pretty much J-rock. That's Planetary Linea, done by rock band pepetterz. This rules. It's honestly like one of the best songs I've ever heard. One day I'm gonna make a list of my 100 favorite songs, and this is gonna be like at least top 40. I had this shit on a non-stop loop from when I first heard it at the end of 2023 to when it got taken off Spotify for a couple months. The chorus melody is one of the best that I've ever heard in my life. There's an undeniable energy to the stop-start guitars, and the way everything explodes at the end of the song is just bliss. And I don't think this would work as well with a different VTuber in the spotlight. Yuka Nagase's voice is always very high-pitched and frantic, and that's so fitting sing here as she's speeding 1,000,000 miles an hour through this huge bouncy wall of sound. This song is so sick, like, please check it out. Also, I love that the workaround for recording a real-life music video with an artist who can't show her face is to simply put a bunch of bed sheets between her and the camera. That's fascinating. That theme of YUKA NAGASE in the real world is actually like a major thing with this album and its release. This album marks the transition of YUKA NAGASE from virtual singer to, well, real-life singer. I mean, the artistic evolution from VTuber odd loop covers to LAUNCHVOX is astounding in itself, and her moving away from this VTuber persona and into a more real-life audience is the next evolution of that. She's doing real live shows, and not just as the hologram presence that you typically get at these sorts of VTuber things. This is a video of her first ever live show, held a month before her album was released. The show starts with like a whole live band up on stage, and they're all standing around, not doing anything, as this pre-recorded YUKA NAGASE hologram just dances around for the first song and a half. And then the hologram breaks down, everything goes dark suddenly, and 10 seconds later, the actual YUKA NAGASE walks out on stage in a mask, so the performers can immediately launch into a full band version of the synth pop song that got stopped halfway through. And this rules. This is cool as shit. And as VTuber companies like HoloLive grapple with the difficulties of moving their star talents and their online fan bases off the internet and into the physical world, YUKA NAGASE presents a really compelling version of how to manage that. Like, no disrespect to Hatsune Miku, but a real-life concert with an actual singer and band is gonna beat one with holograms dancing around 10 times out of 10. YUKA NAGASE can hold her own shows and coexist on a bill with indie artists like Alban. She can make collab records with indie labels and get herself into a whole new audience. She's starting to reach a more offline type of music fan, and that's in stark contrast to a group like HoloLive, whose fan base is very online and insular. HoloLive can get you into labels like Sony and Warner, but at its core, it's still an idol agency. You don't get the artistic freedom that YUKA NAGASE has on LAUNCHVOX. And that's the trade-off. VTuber culture is, as a result of companies like HoloLive, often very associated with idol culture. But YUKA NAGASE presents an alternative where that doesn't have to be the case. You don't have to just make idol J-pop. You can have infectious electropop. You can have atmospheric drum and bass. You can have panicked Vocaloid music. You can have glitchy club. You can have that online VTuber presence, and you can cultivate a real-world following. You can call up artists like Pasocom Music Club to help you embrace your internet roots, but you can also push your entire artistic identity into new dimensions at the same time. LAUNCHVOX isn't just an evolution of YUKA NAGASE's sound, it's a coming out party for her as an artist, because she's here, and she's entering the real world, and she's fucking crushing it. LAUNCHVOX is a unique record, but it doesn't really have to be. I'm not saying VTubers are gonna suddenly start blowing up Iyowa's phone, but like, this is something that has very clearly worked for her. And if you're an indie VTuber and you're willing to take a big leap of faith, you can do this too. This isn't gonna be the start of a trend of VTubers chasing alternative popularity, but the VTuber scene as a whole hit some turning points a few years ago when it started to attract mainstream attention. And it went one way towards traditional labels and the big J-pop industry machine. But if it went a different way, I think we could have seen a lot more records like LAUNCHVOX. Records that embrace the internet roots that VTubers come from. And records that embrace the weird and off-kilter sounds that define the Japanese internet scene at this point. But that didn't happen, and as a result, LAUNCHVOX is kind of in a space of its own. The willingness to try new sounds, get experimental, and just do weird shit makes this not just the most unique VTuber album, but in my opinion, the best VTuber album, and it's not particularly close. So there you go. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. You can like, comment, subscribe if you want. Thanks for 2K subscribers. It's kind of crazy that the most ridiculous hurricane I've ever seen formed a week after I had a really popular video about people overhyping hurricanes, but that's life, I guess. Love y'all so much for sticking around. Thank you. Bye.